The last part of this lesson on example 3 is to find the center and the radius of the following circle and then graph. The problem is here, this is in which form? That is in this general form right here, where you have your x squared plus y squared plus ax plus by plus c equals 0. So this is general form, and all the information comes from when this is in standard form. So we have on this example, we went from standard form and expanded those out to get into general form. I'm now starting here and need to go to the standard form. So we do this by completing the square. So when we complete the square, that's actually a technique to use to solve a quadratic equation, but we can apply the same technique to this. So what I want to do is I want to get my x's together. So I have x squared plus 4x, and then I'm going to leave some room, plus put your y's together, plus y squared minus 6y, leave some room, and this equals, I'm going to move that 12 over by subtracting it over. Now, what is that formula that we use to figure out what goes in that blank? That is b over 2 squared. So 4 over 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. And what I do to one side of the equation, I am also doing to the other. Same thing here. Negative 6 is my b, so negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, and negative 3 in parentheses squared is 9. So I will also add 9. Now, typically I would do that off to the side, but I'm out of room, so I'm just going to do it below. But keep these equation balanced. If I add 4 to the left, I'm adding it to the right. If I add 9, we're adding 9. So now factor. X squared plus 4x plus 4 factors the x plus 2 quantity squared, which again, remember, is that b over 2. When you do 4 over 2 is 2. Plus factor this, y squared minus 6y plus 9 is y minus 3 squared, which again is that b over 2. Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. And then combine these, that's negative 12 plus 13, so it's going to give me 1. So now this is in standard form, and now I can answer the questions. We need to know what is the center and what is the radius. So the center is my HK, and remember, inside opposite, right? This is a minus K. I'm just kidding. It's a minus H, but it's a positive H. It's a minus K. It's a positive K. Inside opposite. So positive 2 is negative 2. Positive 3, or negative 3 is a positive 3. Change that sign. And then what is my radius? Now this one's a little bit misleading. Remember, this equals r squared, not r. This equals r squared. So for example, this equation here equals 36 because why? The square root of 36 is 6. So this radius does equal 1, but I want to make it very, very clear that it's not because this equals 1. It's because the square root of 1 is 1. So now let's graph this. And this graph isn't the best one, so we'll make do. We've got negative 2, 3. Here's my center. So I need to go up, down, left, and right 1. Well, I can go down 1, left 1, right 1. Go the best up 1 you can. And so here is my little baby circle. Well, it's actually a pretty good circle. Let's try again on part B. So we need to put our x's here together since this is in general form. So I've got x squared plus 10x, then we'll leave some room. Then plus y squared. I don't have any other y's here, so we don't really need to leave room. And then we'll move this 16 over to the other side by subtracting it. So let's figure out what goes into this blank. And that is still that formula of b over 2 squared. So my b is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 5 squared is 25. What I do to one side, I am doing to the other side. And now let's put this into the correct form. When I factor, we get x plus 5, and that's that 10 over 2, but 5 times 5 is 25, 5 plus 5 is 10. Bring down your y squared, and when I combined here, I get 9. So now, using this form here, now I can answer the questions of what is the center, and what is the radius. So what is my radius? That's -5, 0. Change the sign, inside opposite. So positive 5 becomes negative. And if you have nothing in parentheses, that means 0, right? Just like here, when my center was at 0, 0, when I plugged that in, I got x minus 0 and y minus 0, but x minus 0 is just x. Y minus 0 is just y. So y squared means that's the same as y minus 0 squared. And then what is my radius? It is not 9. My equation equals r squared. So the opposite of squaring is to take a square root. So my radius here is 3. So to graph this, we'll graph our center at -5, 0, and then we'll go up, down, left, and right 3 units. So up 3, down 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3. And you know the drill, make the best circle you can. And that's a pretty good circle. Okay, now a bonus question, and it's going to help us as we go further. This is to help us with that last one, knowing the general form of an equation of our conics section, understanding how the constants of the equation relate to the graph. My bonus question here is, what characteristics make the two equations above in example 3 a circle? So going forward, when we add more conic sections, when we add ellipse, hyperbola, and parabola, I need to be able to look at these equations right here and say, I know that that's going to make a circle. So what about these makes it a circle? Well, the first thing is we have both x squared and y squared. So when you have both x and y squareds, that tells me it's either hyperbola, parabola, nope, not parabola at all. It tells me it's either hyperbola, circle, or ellipse. So next, I want to look at the signs. Because these have the same sign, we have positive x squared and positive y squared. That means it's either a circle or an ellipse. So even if this was negative x squared minus y squared, if they were both negative, that would still be okay. So they have the same sign. In this case, they're both positive. Then the last thing we're going to look for are the coefficients. Because these have the same, I'm going to squeeze this in here. coefficients on x squared and y squared, that makes it a circle. That same coefficient with the positives is what makes it equal distance all around. So as these coefficients become different, that's going to be an ellipse. When these signs become negative or different, when one's negative and one's positive, that's a hyperbola. And when you only have one x or y squared term, that's going to be a parabola. Okay, but focusing on these right here, why are these a circle? Because you have x squared, y squared, both positive, so same sign and same coefficient. That's a 1x squared and a 1y squared, a 1x squared and a 1y squared. So these three things tell me that that conic in general form makes a circle.